LGBTQIA+. If you're watching this video, then most likely you know what it stands for. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer questioning, intersex, and asexual. The plus representing every other sexuality or gender not shown in the acronym. LGBTQIA+ people have been mistreated for as long as they've existed, and I'm here to shed some light on a little bit of that story. This is LGBTQIA+, a history. Okay, so we're going to get right into it. In ancient Egypt, two royal servants named Khnumhotep and Niankhkhnum fell in love and are currently known as the first same-sex couple in history. Fast forwarding a couple thousand years, ancient Rome was also a huge instigator of discrimination against LGBTQ+ people, but at times it was also a huge supporter. Roman emperors like Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, also known as Caligula, and Publius Cornelius Tacitus were super homophobic, punishing gay people left and right. But other emperors, namely Nero and Trajan, were supportive of LGBTQIA people. Nero married a male slave of his, and many reports show that Trajan was homosexual himself. It depended on who was in charge at the time. Around the year 400, a Greek poet named Nonnus releases Dionysiaca, a 48-book long poem that focuses on the tale of the Greek god Dionysus. Dionysiaca was also the last work celebrating homosexuality to come for almost 1,000 years. So let's skip over to the 12th and 13th centuries, because after ancient Rome died, there wasn't much more done with LGBTQIA+ rights until then, as far as we currently know. In the year 1102, a popular London-based Catholic council took the time to make sure that the English public knew that LGBTQIA+ relationships were a sin and should always be thought of as so. More like that follows suit for the next 400 years. Thousands of people are charged, fined, and often even publicly executed during this time in even the most prominent European countries. Among these men was the one and only Leonardo da Vinci, whom many now recognize to be gay. Most of the charges are, of course, to men accused of being gay, because the world back then was sexist, and that's what they cared about. In the 16th century, the laws go back and forth on LGBTQ rights. In England, King Henry VIII makes laws against LGBTQIA people, which Mary Tudor revokes once she becomes queen. But only 5 years later, those anti-LGBTQ laws are reinstated by Elizabeth I. During the 17th century, the then colony of Virginia passes a law against homosexuality, punishable by death, which is later revoked and then re-established, similar to the situation England put itself in only 50 years before. History really does repeat itself. The 18th century looks extremely bright for LGBTQIA people, at least towards the end of it. The beginning is just as terrible as everything else, but in 1791, France becomes the first country to legalize homosexuality and not go back on it, as well as Luxembourg and Belgium shortly after. The 19th century isn't too bad either. El Salvador and the Dominican Republic decriminalized LGBTQIA+ people in 1822, as well as Italy, Portugal, Bolivia, Argentina, Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, and Paraguay. Sadly, many large countries still criminalized homosexuality at this time, including Germany and the Russian Empire. Now we prepare for the 20th century, where there's a lot to say. Peru and Uruguay joined many of their South American friends in the Decriminalizing LGBTQIA People Club. Iceland, Switzerland, Sweden, Jordan, and Greece joined their regional section of the club because they decriminalized it too. So many other countries legalized LGBTQIA+ people that I don't have time to put them in the video. And by the end of this century, most of the countries were pro-LGBTQ, making America a minority. The US of A was still super homophobic, still creating anti-LGBTQ laws, while many other countries were in the process of legalizing homosexuality. American officials even said that homosexuals were a threat to national security. Many states repealed some homophobic laws, but not many important ones, so it wasn't perfect, by a long shot. Finally, in 2003, homosexuality is decriminalized in the United States. In a landmark case, the Supreme Court ruled that sexual conduct is a liberty protected by the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. LGBTQIA+ rights are also protected by the First Amendment, Title IX Educational Amendments, and the Equal Access Act. Despite these protections, there are still many homophobic people in America, and not all state laws support these protections. But the fight for LGBTQIA+ rights is furthered by people in influential or powerful places and other justice-oriented citizens. Thank you.